Welcome to Schlock Reviews, the kind of review show where I look at all the Schlock films, the Schlock classics, and new Schlock films, and I kind of just, talk about them, especially ones that interest me, creature features, monster movies, and that sort of thing. Anything that's cheaply made and entertaining, I'll watch it. Today, I'm talking about Critters Attack. So this is a film that, I was walking around Walmart, and I was just kind of wandering around looking for a home, and I noticed in the DVD section this film called Critters Attack, and me being a Critters buff, I'm thinking, Critters Attack, what is this movie? Because all I'm aware of is the first 4 Critters films, and then the Shudder original show, Critters A New Binge, which I've also seen. And so I'm thinking, well, what could this be? Critters Attack, I've never heard of this. And apparently, I looked it up right after. It is a new Critters film, and I had no idea that existed. So I got home, and I rented it for $2 or $3, and I was excited to see this new Critters film. As, Critters, as part of the Big Four, is it's not my favorite, but it's a great one. And obviously, the Big Four is Critters, Hobgoblins, Gremlins, and Ghoulies. In which case, I think the trophy goes to Ghoulies. Yeah, the trophies goes to Ghoulies. But anyway, I love Critters, and I love those first 4 films. Even the worst one, which is I think the third one, I would say, still a lot of entertaining moments, and still really fun to watch. So going into this new one, I'm thinking, well, at the very least, it's going to be entertaining, and it was. It was decently entertaining. My issue with it stems primarily from the acting and the dialogue, which, now I'm no acting connoisseur. I'm not one to say, okay, well, if it has bad acting, then it's no good. But this has a certain, we'll call it a student film feel, where this just obviously felt like it was thrown together with some actors that they got really cheap, who, no disrespect to them, because the dialogue wasn't very good, so you can't really blame them for not delivering things well, because some of the lines were just dumb. They were just dumb. But it certainly was a little bit on the iffy side, acting-wise, and that kind of distracted me from the rest of the film, because those actors just really seemed so, I don't know, like they didn't want to be there. Which, yeah, that's understandable. That's understandable. But let's not be negative. This film actually had a lot going for it. What I liked about it were the critters themselves. They really did a good job with the critters. I actually think this might have shown the critters more than many of the other films, at least from the jump. Because you don't, there's always a period of 15 to 20 minutes where you don't see critters, you just see their perspective or whatever. But honestly, once it gets going, you see these furballs pretty often, which I'm happy with. And there were a lot of great critter moments that made up for any moment of mediocrity. But that mediocrity is there, and it's with the plot of the film, which, look, it's a movie called Critters Attack. The plot isn't important, per se, but the way that it was handled in its format and its act structure was really kind of, I don't know, it was annoying, because you had these characters that were introduced to have this arc, or this plot line, and then no arc ever sprouted from it. You have this main character, Drea, and she has her uncle and her brother who's obsessed with aliens. So obviously the alien thing that's right out the gate, that's important. But then her uncle, there's this whole thing with him they're not getting along, and her wanting to get into this college, and this goes nowhere. And this character kind of just fizzles out, and that becomes, so unimportant. And then beyond that, she delivers food, I think, to her college of choice that she didn't make it into. And then she has this friend who she hasn't seen in a long time, and there's this guy who she doesn't get, or who I think she likes. I didn't get it. But either way, those characters go nowhere, and they do come back later on, but those arcs just seem kind of like they randomly throw them in, and they don't ever get closure at all. There's no climax to these arcs. There's none. But that's okay. So what? I want to watch Critters, right? Okay, yeah. But this does take up a lot of the film. So for any movie, monster movie or creature feature, it's always sad for me when we don't see the creature much at all, unless the human element of the film is really good, which in this case I don't think it is. I think it's actually extremely weak and almost hard to watch, the human aspect of this film. The main character, Drea, no disrespect to the actor, is a terrible character, and the acting is awful, and I die when I watch it. I die a little. But that's fine, because we have critters, and we see a lot of the critters. We do see a lot of them, and then there's a lot of violence in it. There's a lot of blood, and that's something I like, because critters always seem to want to go that extra mile. You know, Gremlins had its moments of darkness. It had actually quite a few moments of darkness, but it always had that kind of fun family sort of vibe to it, whereas Critters, I mean, if you saw the first Critters movie, that messes up that house. He destroys it, and he almost kills that entire family. So there's definitely those moments where they're more extreme than some of the other ones. Ghoulies can maybe come in there a little bit. You know, I don't want to spoil some of the greater moments of this thing. There are some great critter moments. There's some that just make you want to clap, and there really are, and those are great moments. And I know Wendy, when we were watching this, she took particular note of some of the climactic scenes with the critters towards the end, where things started to wrap up, and they started to get a little, you know, extreme. Everything started to amp up a little bit. She really liked that. But apart from that, they're half-baked characters. Another one being the older woman who hunts aliens, which I don't know if that was a reference to one of the earlier ones. But I don't know. Either way, half-baked characters, terrible acting. None of the dialogue is worthwhile. There is one character who says, "Eat some steel, you rat bastards." Yeah, that was okay. Yeah, that was a good line. I like that line. That's a good line. But for the most part, yeah, terrible dialogue, terrible characters, terrible acting. And that's on the con section. But on the pro section, you do get a lot of critters. And when the critters are on screen and they're the center focus, they're great. They really are. And I love the inclusion of Bianca, which is a good critter character. A character that is a critter that helps the main humans. That's a great idea, and the way that they handled it was great. I just wish that this critter could have been accompanied by good human actors. Unfortunately, that was not the case. But I did love the critters. I loved what they did with them, and I loved how they handled those practical effects. And I love that these kind of movies are still kind of coming out to a degree. So bottom line, you gotta love the critters, but everything else going on in this film kind of bogs it down, makes it to where I wouldn't want to watch it again, and that's not the case for the first four. And people don't like the first four. They don't like the third or the fourth one in particular. But, I think there's something salvageable about it. Talk about acting. In the fourth Critter movie, and that might have been a dumb movie, but we had Brad Dourif, We had a lot of good actors in that one. And in the third one, we had Leonardo DiCaprio. So there was something salvageable about all these films, and I would say that this is easily the weakest of the five. And I wasn't crazy about a new binge either, but that's for another time. So I'm going to give this one, I think, 2 stars. Yeah. Not a great film, but those 2 stars are purely for the critters. And everything else, I'm sorry, but it just didn't hit for me. So, if you want to watch a Critters film, watch these. And if you haven't seen the Ghoulies movies, it's a good, you can throw those on, why not? But anyway, Critters Attack, great name, great score, great critters, bad everything else. Okay. Schlock Reviews.